When India declared non-alignment after its independence on August 15, 1947, it was not merely trying to stay away from the Cold War. This newly independent nation was asserting, in effect, thanks, but we will sit this one out. The challenge, however, was that neutrality in a bipolar world was less like staying on the sidelines and more like balancing a narrow bridge over a stormy river. One wrong move and you could be swept into the conflict. Now, last week marked 78 years since India gained independence, a reminder of how far the nation has navigated these geopolitical tightropes. At one point, the KGB reportedly claimed it had so many assets in India that it was cheaper to buy a parliamentarian than to sponsor a spy mission. From the 1950s to the late 80s, India became a Cold War hotspot, minus the missiles and plus a lot of spies. The CIA and the KGB went all in, playing a high-stakes game of cloak and dagger chess. They did not just observe from the sidelines. They burrowed deep into Indian politics, bureaucracy, media, and security agencies. This was not about simply winning hearts and minds. It was about quietly rewriting the rules of the game. All of this shadowy manipulation helped set the stage for one of India's most chaotic chapters, the emergency, when democracy hit pause and both local and foreign puppeteers pulled a few too many strings. Today, we will dive into the developments of this period, how the CIA and the KGB engaged in information warfare, shaped narratives, and influenced the fall of a democratically elected government, revealing a hidden layer of Cold War politics in India. The story begins with a surprising degree of cooperation between India and the West. In 1949, as India was building its intelligence infrastructure, the director of the Intelligence Bureau, T.G. Sanjeevi, collaborated with the CIA to monitor Communist China at the time. This partnership solidified after the Chinese annexation of Tibet, with the CIA aiding Tibetan resistance fighters and helping ensure the Dalai Lama's safe passage to India. Now, this was in 1959. The trust was such that a secret U-2 spy plane base was established in Charbhatia in Odisha for reconnaissance flights over China. This collaboration also extended to the creation of the Special Frontier Force, or the SFF, in 1962, a paramilitary unit of Tibetan refugees trained with CIA assistance. We have already talked about the SFF in detail in one of our videos, the link to which you will find in the description below. Now, however, coming back to Washington's strategic interests quickly shifted from cooperation to covert action. The election of the communist government in Kerala in 1957 had alarmed both the US and Britain. Both nations feared that Kerala, referred to by a British diplomat, Malcolm MacDonald, as the Indian Yannan, would become a global showcase for communism. Let's keep in mind that this is the very first election won by a communist party, not by the bullet but by the ballot. Documents reveal a parallel and joint clandestine operation. The CIA, in collaboration with Britain's MI5 and MI6, secretly channeled funds through the Congress Party officials and anti-communist union leaders. This led to a campaign of industrial unrest and political turmoil. The Vimochan Samara, or the liberation struggle, was marked by strikes and agitations. This has then created the grounds for President Rajendra Prasad to dismiss Kerala's government under Article 356 of the Indian Constitution. This happened in 1959 as well. Now, while Prime Minister Nehru publicly denounced US interference and quietly tolerated limited intelligence cooperation, his Home Minister Mr. Govind Ballabh Pant and his Finance Minister Morarji Desai were firmly in favor of the Anglo-American plan to undercut these communists. Now, this episode established a crucial precedent, a public policy of non-alignment coexisting with a private willingness to accept foreign intervention. Now, the CIA often found itself reacting to events, but the KGB executed a masterclass in infiltration, deep, broad and sustained. According to KGB defector Vasily Mitrokhin, India was, and I quote, the model of KGB infiltration of a third world government, with the agency maintaining its largest foreign presence in New Delhi during the 1970s. The KGB strategy was built on a foundation of three things: political, financial and media subversion. Under political subversion, the KGB's reach extended into the highest levels of the Indian government at the time. The Mitrokhin archive details how an Indian diplomat, codenamed Prokhor, was compromised by a female KGB agent, Neverova, and handed over his embassy's code book in exchange for a monthly payment of a mere 4,000 rupees. The code book contained the ciphers used to encrypt and decrypt secret diplomatic cables. So its compromise meant that the Soviets could potentially read Indian communications in real time. In today's terms, 4,000 rupees would nearly be 5 lakh rupee per month, several times the salary of a mid-ranking Indian diplomat in the 1950s, when even senior civil servants earned less than 1,000 rupees a month. Now, such sums made compromise not only tempting but transformative. By 1978, the KGB was running over 30 agents, including 10 Indian intelligence officers. This deep access was confirmed by former KGB chief Yuri Andropov, who famously turned down an offer of a bribe of $50,000 from an Indian cabinet minister because the agency already had all the access it needed. Financial support was both extensive and direct. Suitcases of cash were funneled to Indira Gandhi's party with a secret gift of 2 million rupees from the Politburo, personally delivered by KGB head Leonid Shabarsin. Another million was given to a pro-Gandhi newspaper. Now, the Communist Party of India, or the CPI, was also a key recipient, with money transferred via car windows and through a front import-export business that generated over 3 million rupees in annual profits. Now, the KGB even subsidized the election campaigns of 21 non-communist politicians, including 4 union ministers, in 1977. This practice of soliciting foreign funds was not unique to the Soviets. Former US Ambassador Daniel Moynihan recalled that the US had twice provided money to the Congress Party, once to Mrs. Gandhi herself. Now, coming to media and defense penetration, the KGB's information warfare was unparalleled. By 1973, it claimed to have 10 Indian newspapers and a press agency on its payroll. In 1975 alone, the KGB had planted over 5,000 articles in Indian newspapers. This was part of a larger long-term campaign. Moscow planted over 160,000 items in India's press, earning the Press Trust of India the nickname of Press Task of India. The nickname was an accusation that India's main news agency had become a propaganda arm for the Soviets. Now, the KGB used its media influence for disinformation campaigns, including false stories that the US was involved in Indira Gandhi's 1984 assassination and plotting to balkanize India. The Soviets also influenced military deals, funding Defense Minister V.K. Krishna Menon's election campaigns in 1962 and 67, and to persuade him to buy Soviet MiGs instead of British Lightnings. The declaration of emergency in June 1975, following Indira Gandhi's conviction for electoral malpractice, marked the climax of the Cold War espionage in India. The CIA was caught by surprise with its intelligence bulletins initially predicting that Gandhi would resign and lacking any specific insight into her intentions to rule by decree. Now, this highlights a critical limitation of CIA's spycraft in India, which often relied on public sources and lacked deep human-level penetration, which the KGB enjoyed. In stark contrast, the Soviets were perfectly positioned to capitalize on this moment. A declassified CIA intelligence memorandum from May 1976 confirms that the CPI support for the emergency was not a local political calculation, but was reportedly directed by Moscow. While the CPIM opposed this authoritarian move, the CPI broke with the rest of the opposition to align with Gandhi. The CIA observed that this was a strategic move by the Soviets, who openly praised Gandhi's decision to impose the emergency and to strengthen her position to undermine her opponents. This period solidified India's tilt towards Soviet Union as Gandhi's regime became more reliant on Soviet military and economic assistance. While the CIA was increasingly cast as the foreign hand she publicly blamed for domestic unrest within India. The Cold War espionage battle left an enduring legacy on India's political and security culture. As former KGB General Oleg Kalugin stated, it seemed like the entire country was up for sale, a sentiment echoed by the IB director Mr. M.K. Dhar, who noted the KGB's success in influencing Indian politics. The espionage war resulted in a paradoxical outcome. Both the Soviets and the Americans were so deeply entrenched that neither trusted the Indians with sensitive information, fearing it would reach the other side. This historical chapter of compromise, corruption, and manipulation laid bare the vulnerabilities of an open democracy with weak institutional firewalls. The playbook of influence has simply gone digital now. The Cambridge Analytica scandal and Chinese firms monitoring Indian elites are the modern parallels to KGB's old propaganda and spy networks. The objective remains the same: to map power, harvest leverage, and shape narratives. The lessons from India's Cold War is that national sovereignty is now defended within nation's own data systems, not just at its borders. That is all from us today. This is Garima, and you are watching the Asian Chronicle.